Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The crystal flute shattered against the marble floor, the sharp sound cutting through the organ music like a guillotine blade, instantly silencing the 2,000 elites gathered in the cathedral. It wasn't just the noise that stopped the ceremony. It was the sudden, suffocating wave of distress pheromones, sour milk, and dying gardenias that flooded the pristine air, causing the groom at the altar to stiffen as if struck by lightning. Damian Cross, the ruthlessly efficient alpha and CEO of Cross Industries, did not turn slowly. He whipped around, his obsidian eyes scanning the sea of faceless guests until they locked onto a trembling, pale figure in a waiter's uniform, clutching his stomach as he swayed dangerously near the back pews. Elian. Damian's voice was a low growl, barely audible, yet it carried the weight of a thunderclap in the silent hall. Elian Vesper, the disowned son of a rival family and the man Damian had sworn to destroy, looked up. His eyes, usually a vibrant emerald, were dull and glazed with fever. He took one step toward the exit, a desperate attempt to flee the man he had been forced to serve, but his legs betrayed him. As the darkness of unconsciousness claimed him, Elian didn't feel the cold marble floor. He only felt the terrifying, possessive roar of an alpha realizing his mate was in danger, and the blur of strong arms catching him before he could break. The chaos that ensued was the kind of scandal that ended dynasties. The wedding of the century, a political union between the Cross Empire and the Sterling heiress, had been halted not by an objection, but by the groom carrying a collapsed server out of the cathedral, leaving his bride at the altar without a backward glance. Damian didn't care about the cameras flashing or the gasp of the crowd. He only cared about the heat radiating from the fragile body in his arms. Elian was too light, dangerously light. His waiter's uniform hung off a frame that had once been lithe and athletic. Drive. Now. Damian barked at his driver as he kicked open the door of the limousine. He didn't wait for his security detail. He gently laid Elian across the leather seats, his hands shaking, a sensation the alpha had never experienced. Why was he here? Elian had vanished 6 months ago. He had stolen corporate secrets, sold them to the highest bidder, and disappeared, or so the evidence Damian had been fed suggested. Damian had spent months hating him, burying the ache in his chest under layers of ice and ruthlessness. He had agreed to this political marriage to cement his power and forget the traitor who had tasted like vanilla and rain. Damian. Elian whimpered in his sleep, curling into a ball. His hand instinctively went to his lower abdomen, a protective gesture that made Damian frown. "I'm here," Damian said, his voice hard, conflicting with the gentle way he brushed a damp lock of hair from Elian's forehead. "You have a lot of explaining to do, Vesper. And you better hope you have a good reason for looking like a corpse." The private wing of St. Jude's Hospital was cleared out within 10 minutes of Damian's call. He paced the hallway like a caged tiger, the scent of antiseptic doing nothing to mask the underlying aroma of his own distressed pheromones, burnt cedar and ozone. Dr. Eris, a beta who had served the Cross family for decades, stepped out of the room, looking grave. He held a clipboard against his chest, his expression unreadable. "Speak," Damian commanded, stopping his pacing. "Is it an overdose? Malnutrition? He is suffering from severe malnutrition and exhaustion." "Yes, Dr. Eris said calmly. "But the collapse was triggered by a reaction to the suppressants he's been taking. They are high-grade, black market blockers designed to mask pheromones entirely. Why would he need those?" Damian narrowed his eyes. "He's an Omega, but he's never hidden it before. He wasn't hiding his dynamic, Sir Dr. Eris sighed, adjusting his glasses. He was hiding his condition. The suppressants were toxic to the fetus. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Damian felt the air leave his lungs. What? Elian is pregnant, Damian, the doctor said softly. He's about 5 months along. The stress on his body, combined with the chemicals he was ingesting to hide the scent of the child. It's a miracle he didn't miscarry right there in the church. Damian leaned against the wall, the strength draining from his legs. 5 months. That was right before Elian had left. Right before the betrayal. Is it? Damian started, but the question died in his throat. We ran the DNA test immediately, Given the circumstances, Dr. Eris said, anticipating the question. It is yours. There is no doubt. A child. Elian was carrying his heir. And he was starving, working as a servant at Damien's wedding, poisoning himself to keep it a secret. Let me see him. It wasn't a request. The room was dim, lit only by the monitors beeping rhythmically. Elian looked small in the hospital bed, the sterile white sheets emphasizing the dark circles under his eyes and the hollows of his cheeks. And Fordrip was pumping fluids into his bruised arm. Damien pulled a chair close to the bed, sitting down with a heaviness that rattled his bones. He reached out, his large hand hovering over Elian's stomach. Even under the blanket, he could see the slight bump now that he knew to look for it. How had he missed it? Because he hadn't looked. He had only seen a traitor. Elian stirred, his eyelashes fluttering. When he opened his eyes, panic flooded them instantly. He tried to sit up, but the four lines held him back. Easy, Damien said, his voice dropping to a rumble intended to soothe. He released a controlled amount of calming pheromones, wrapping Elian in the scent of cedar. You're safe. The wedding. Elian rasped, his voice dry. I didn't mean to. I just needed the money. The agency said it was a high-paying gig. I didn't know it was yours until I walked in. Stop talking about the wedding, Damien said sharply. The wedding is over. It's done. Elian flinched. I ruined it. Of course I did. Add it to the list of my crimes. He looked away, tears pricking the corners of his eyes. Just let me go, Damien. I'll disappear for real this time. I won't bother you. You think I'm going to let you leave? Damien's hand shot out, gripping Elian's chin and forcing him to look back. You think you can walk out of here while carrying my child? Elian froze. The color drained from his face entirely. You know. Dr. Eris told me everything. The suppressants. The risk. Damien's eyes blazed with a mix of fury and terror. Were you trying to kill it? Trying to kill yourself? I was trying to protect him. Elian shouted back, the sudden burst of energy making the monitors spike. He collapsed back against the pillows, breathing hard. I had to hide the scent. If they knew I was pregnant with your child, they would have used me against you. Damien frowned. They? Who are they? Elian bit his lip, looking away. It doesn't matter anymore. It matters, Damien said, his voice dangerously low. You left me, Elian. You stole the schematics for the Project Chimera prototype and sold them to the rival syndicate. I saw the bank transfers. I saw the emails. Elian let out a bitter, broken laugh. Is that what they showed you? You genius, stupid alpha. He looked Damien dead in the eye. I didn't steal the schematics. I bought them back. Damien stared at him. Explain. Your VP, Marcus. He was the one selling them. Elian whispered, the confession draining him. He framed me. He told me if I didn't leave and take the fall, he'd have you assassinated. He showed me the sniper he had on your payroll. I couldn't prove it. Not then. So I took the money he planted in my account, used it to buy back the leak to ensure your project was safe, and I ran. Elian's hand rested protectively over his stomach. Then I found out about the baby. And I knew. If Marcus knew I was carrying your heir, he wouldn't just kill me. He'd use the baby to control you forever. So I hid. I took the jobs nobody wanted. I took the suppressants. Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Damien's mind raced, reevaluating the last 6 months. The inconsistencies in the evidence. Marcus's sudden rise to power within the company. The way Marcus had pushed for the wedding to the Sterling family. It all clicked into place. The picture was complete, and it was painted in Elian's blood and sacrifice. Damien felt a nausea profounder than anything he had ever known. He had almost married the pawn of his enemy while his true mate, the man who had destroyed his own life to save Damien's, was serving champagne at the ceremony, starving and pregnant. Damien stood up abruptly. Elian flinched, expecting a blow or a shout. Instead, the alpha dropped to his knees beside the bed. It was a sight that would have brought the business world to a standstill. Damien Cross, the unbreakable, kneeling on a hospital floor, pressing his forehead against the back of Elian's hand. Damien, Elian whispered, shocked. I will kill him. Damien vowed into Elian's skin, his voice vibrating with a primal, terrifying promise. I will tear Marcus apart with my bare hands. I will burn down the city if I have to. He looked up, his eyes wet, burning with intensity. I should have known. I should have trusted my gut instead of the data. I let you suffer. I let you starve. He placed a large, warm hand gently over Elian's stomach. I almost lost both of you. I thought you hated me, Elian said, a tear finally escaping and rolling down his cheek. I tried, Damien admitted. God, I tried so hard. But even when I thought you were a traitor, seeing you on that floor today, it stopped my heart, Elian. It has always been you. Damien stood and leaned over, pressing a kiss to Elian's forehead, then his eyelids, and finally, softly, his lips. It wasn't a kiss of lust, but of reclamation. A seal. Sleep, Damien commanded softly. When you wake up, Marcus will be gone. The wedding is annulled. You are coming home to the penthouse. You and our son. Daughter, Elian corrected faintly, his eyes drooping as the exhaustion finally took over. Dr. Eris said, it might be a girl. A rare, genuine smile broke the harsh lines of Damien's face. A daughter. A princess. He smoothed the blanket. Sleep, my love. I have work to do. As Elian drifted off, the last thing he saw was Damien walking toward the door, pulling his phone from his pocket. The alpha's posture had changed. The grief was gone, replaced by the cold, lethal precision of a predator who had found his target. Damien stepped into the hallway and dialed his head of security. Lock down the city, Damien said, his voice void of all mercy. Find Marcus. Bring him to the warehouse. And cancel the honeymoon suite. Prepare the nursery. The king had returned, and he had a war to win for his family. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Damien take control and burn the world for his mate, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a husband who almost married someone else while you carried his child? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt, masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art, dramatic lighting. Man 1. Tall alpha male, sharp jawline, black hair slicked back, wearing unbuttoned tuxedo. Expression of shock and horror, catching Man 2. Man 2. Slender omega male, pale skin, messy brown hair, wearing cheap waiter uniform. Fainting, eyes rolling back, clutching stomach. Background is a grand cathedral aisle, blurred wedding guests in shock, shattered champagne glass. On marble floor, cinematic angle, emotional atmosphere, intricate details, depth of field.